Why one works and why the other one doesn't, but I go one or the other, and one or the other works. So if you guys can work that out, you can tell me. Chris, come back, please. So we're going to go same position, and remember, my objective here is to put weight on his elbows so I can control his wrist and bring his wrist into his hip. So I'm going to start in the same position. Now this time, for whatever reason, I feel like this is strong, or he's just not reacting the same. This time I'm going to go inside. I can go far shoulder or near shoulder. I think this depends on arm length. I think I find far shoulder a little bit easier. Now rather than tight waist this time, I'm going to go here. So I turn my thumb out and I go inside his hip. Now this is called a spiral ride in wrestling. You guys, does anyone here wrestle or has wrestled? Yeah, so you guys know, I'm telling you stuff you already know obviously, but for everyone else, this is new-ish. And all I'm going to do is circle towards that shoulder. Now same situation, I'm putting him on his elbow. As he goes to get back to his knees, I'm going to catch the wrist. What I end up with this time, and again these are all kind of interchangeable, is a cross wrist. So you see how I've got this wrist on this side. Now if you want to switch sides probably in this position, I'm going to go here. But again, now as he tries to stand, I can just bring him right onto his shoulder. But if I got this wrist and he wants to re-guard, it actually makes it quite hard for him to re-guard as well. So a lot of the time when he rolls to re-guard, I get back to top position. So let's go that one again. I'm in position here. By the way, this is all kind of leading into striking, but I won't actually strike from this position. If I feel like, you might feel like you can get a good few punches off from here, but I only really get one and then they're gone. I try and establish my control before I start striking. So this time, I'm inside, I'm under, and this turns out. Now rather than pulling him this time, I just circle towards his shoulder to drop him on his hip. Now as he starts to get up again, I'm going to take that wrist. I'm going to feed in and run round. Same side. Punch, punch. He tries to get up. He's going right back down. He tries to get up again. Punch, punch. He's right back down. Everyone got that? Try it. 2 for 2. You've got to be a little bit more careful with it, but I've got the near side wrist, okay? So I bring that near side, and again, like I was saying, as soon as you get a wrist, pull it into the hip, right? If I kind of leave it floating around here and it's a strong guy, you can straighten his arm. Yeah. And as soon as his arm gets straight, I'm struggling. But if I bring this to his hip, try and straighten your arm now. You see, he's almost like Kimura-ing himself in that position, okay? So, near wrist. Obviously, this opens up some striking options for us with this hand, and then also a cross wrist, okay? So I got the wrist gripped across. Ideally, I'd be on this side, but the beauty of this is you can always switch from side to side and switch wrists, which is what you'll start doing. And this is a nice, sorry. This is a nice one for striking, because look, I got this on the same side as my hip and I can create a lot of pop in the right shot. There is also, and occasionally you'll end up here, a far wrist. Again, this is like good for striking options, but someone mentioned this before. The one thing we've got to be wary of when we do this is that he traps my arm and rolls me. You got that one, yeah? Hits me with that Peterson roll. So when you are doing that, kind of be aware of that. If I do end up with his far wrist, come out this, and I get here. You see, you have to like switch sides to work out which wrist you're on and stuff. But now as he goes to roll, I just run round. Feel good? Punch, punch. So what we'll do another isolation round now. So we'll go back to the one we were doing before. The guy's going to start on the hands. Your objective's still going to be to stand up. The other guy, you're going to start on top. First thing you need to do, one way or the other, put the weight on the elbows. Now as he's trying to stand, bring that wrist in, try and stand. And then we'll reset once you get some control. Start showing those strikes as well now. Just 1 or 2, just so you know where they're at. Got it? Back and forth, 1 for 1. Let's do it.
Thank you guys for coming. It's a big investment of time and energy and money, time being the most important. I think all the coaches, myself included, really respect that. We're grateful for that. And I'll try to make it so, at least my 1/8 of this camp, you're like, wow, really glad I made it. So I had a few things I was considering. And when I heard that the theme was letting go, it made it very easy for me to narrow it down. Basically, letting go, the part of it that I'm going to address today, for me, it comes down to, the lack of ability to let go just comes down to fear in jiu-jitsu, And when I say fear, I don't mean that you're a coward. I mean like you're afraid of trusting jiu-jitsu. And the better your jiu-jitsu gets, hopefully, the less that happens. And so, as much as it's possible in an hour and 15 minutes, I'm just going to show you a little slice, a little microcosm of jiu-jitsu that you should be able to expand out to your entire game, right? The philosophy should apply to your entire game. I'm just going to show you this piece, and we're going to work on chokes because people tend to be, a little bit claustrophobic when people grab their neck. That's not a bad reaction, right? You don't want to be too comfortable in general with people choking you, but you also want to realize that, with the right tools and with the right technique and especially the right mindset, there are a lot of things you can do before you have to tap or go to sleep. And so I'm going to talk about when to hand fight and when to let go. So, if Coach Travis is on my back, I'm not worried about 4 points or anything. I'm worried about, losing to me, or what's scary to me in jiu-jitsu is having a limb injured or going to sleep. Before I have a limb injured or before I go to sleep, this is all artificial. Someone made this up. I mean, it's a bad position for me, but 4 points doesn't mean anything really in my mind. So what does hand fighting mean? It's not out here, choke me. This is not hand fighting. He'll just choke me right away. Hand fighting is structural like everything else. It's inside space. No armpits, no neck. I'm already there. So the kind of macro hand fight is for my neck, but the micro is for my armpit because that's going to matter too. And so I'm in here. Go ahead. And get my neck. It's hard for him. It's not easy. It shouldn't be easy, and I should be escaping before he has my neck. Guillotine's the same thing. If I'm in here and I just do a 2-on-1, this is, I'll put it here maybe. Yeah. If I just put a baseball bat grip on, he can do whatever he wants with his other hand. Just turn out. If he gets to even grab the gi tight, as tight as you can. There's no real control here if I'm hand fighting correctly. But when he locks his hands or when he gets my neck, the hand fight is done. And this is where I'm going to talk about letting go. So we're not going to do an hour and a half of hand fighting, but I don't want you to get into the habit of thinking it's normal for this to happen immediately. Right? I should make it very difficult for my partner. But we're going to start here. Rear naked choke even. This is just giving him time. This is not hand fighting. I lost the hand fight the moment he wrapped my neck. So very slowly put on a good rear naked choke. Yeah, I'm giving him time, right? The hand fight is here. Rear naked choke. This is the hand fight. The moment this happens, let go. Your body fighters, it goes from hand to body. It goes from hand to movement. When I try to arm wrestle with his whole body and his hip extension, I'm just giving him time to do what he wants because I'm afraid to let go, right? And so we'll start, it's all the same no-gi. We'll start with the gi, with bow and arrow from back, because this is something that's going to happen a lot. I'd rather be hand fighting. I'm going to start with a hand in my collar. The hand fight is over. Grab my leg, go for a bow and arrow. Exactly. Go. It's his whole body. He's got good jiu-jitsu, so he's not I'm hand fighting, and he's using his core to drive me into that choke, right? So the problem here, once this is in, is not this ever. It's this, right? And so grab my leg. Good. What I want to be doing here as he turns the corner is worried about this grip. Okay? My leg is going to win this fight, but not if I do this. there's no connection, right? So I have to limit his travel. Grab tight once. Grab tight once with your partners. Don't grab tight 10 times, you just hurt your fingers. But really try to hold it. Yeah. Now, every single thing we do with chokes is about direction. I can go the wrong way and choke, right? Or I can go the right way. And that's usually, not 100% of the time, usually looking into his elbow, right? Looking into the joint of his elbow. The only thing you're gonna do wrong here is escape the choke and go to a triangle, you know, like this. So as you escape the choke, burying your near shoulder is gonna be natural, but you gotta scoop your far hand too. If your far hand comes out on top, you're going into another choke, you're going to a triangle. So he's gonna get my neck. I'm not letting go here. Go get my neck, I'm not letting go here. But the moment this happens, be done with it. No attachment to this. Only not attachment to battles, attachment to wars, right? Lose a battle, win the war. So it's here now. As he turns the corner, I'm going with my shoulders in. So I'm out of the choke, but I want to go through. As I come up, right? I do not want to come out. And I'm going deliberately far away so you can see this arm. I'd come up a lot tighter and try to pass. Once we're on the other side, you guys, I don't care what you do in offense, defense, you must be ambidextrous. I can't tell him where to choke me. So definitely work left and right, left and right. You want to, on offense, if you pass only to this side or you choke only to that side, that's fine because you're initiating. When Travis is being totally cooperative, I don't need to go fast, and so I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be going like 1, 2, 3 like this, because now he might have the gnarliest open guard in the world, or he might stand up and be really good at judo or something. So the more I can control this, commit body weight early and prevent scrambles, the better, right? So he turns the corner, I'm stripping. This shoulder kind of naturally goes under, so I want to get this shoulder under, but I want to put it kind of tight here. So I'm already committing weight to him and working my pass. Okay, is that cool? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so when I teach, I have a couple objectives, like I've always say. One is to help everybody hopefully see jiu-jitsu in a bigger way. And 2, I try and challenge myself to actually make a tangible, measurable impact improvement in your game in one class, which I think is possible. I think every time you take jiu-jitsu, you can walk off the mat much better than you were before if you take the right approach. So I'm going to do 2 things today. The first thing is I think I'm going to change the way almost everyone in here passes the guard in one class. And I'm going to give you the most efficient way to pass that I've ever seen. And I think most of you will only want to pass this way after I show it to you. And then I'm going to teach you how not to get caught flat on your back when somebody passes your guard. So it's a bit ambitious. We'll see how I can do on time. But to begin with, I want to cycle through this using a guard passing drill that I like a lot, that I use at my gym. And so in no particular order, I need you to line up single file along the edge of the mat right there, please, standing. All right, so here's how it's going to work. I'm going to point at you and you're going to say 1, and then you're going to say 2, and then you're going to say 3, and then you're going to start over again at 1. If one of you goes 4, I have to go all the way back to the beginning of the line and do it again. So let's get it right, okay? And remember your number. You guys in?
Yeah. What the? I go 1.
2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1,
2, 3.
All right. Ones, come on the mat and face the group. Go ahead and lay on your back. Okay, so here's how this drill works, all right? Starting down here with you guys, this is the front of the line, okay? You're gonna run out here and you're gonna jump in someone's guard. And when I say jump in their guard, lay on your back, don't do this and waste time. Dive on them and jump in their guard, but in a very relaxed, technical way, try and pass. If you pass the guard, you're able to flatten them out and hold them for 3 seconds like would be required in a tournament. You're gonna run, not walk, all the way over there to the end of the line, okay? And then the line is just gonna keep moving like this. If you get swept, you're gonna run all the way back to the end of the line. If you get put in closed guard, you're gonna stop, run all the way back to the end of the line. With a group this large, this is an experiment, I've never run it with a group this large, but with a group this large, I think the line is going to be constantly moving, and if you're up towards the front of the line, there will always be a body open here. So you're basically just going to be kind of running in a slow circle like this, and I want to keep it moving, okay? So be technical, engage the person that's holding guard, and we'll go that way. If you're on your back here, you're just going to try and not let them pass. You can work sweeps and subs, or you can put them in closed. If you sweep them, submit them, or put them in closed, they're going to go back to the end of the line. Okay, if they pass, they just pass. They go to the end of the line, and there'll be another body right on top of you. Everybody got it?
Sir.
Go! So I'm going to start today with guard passing. And I think it was roughly 28 years ago when I was a blue belt. I watched Rickson pass the guard. He had a smaller private training session. And there was a guy at the session from Washington State who was better than the rest of us. And Rickson spent quite a bit of time in his guard, passing his guard. He rolled with everybody, but he spent a lot more time with that guy. And I remember watching him now in retrospect all those years ago with his head down and his hips up and kind of driving into the guy. And I did not understand what he was doing at all at the time. And then I was trying to remember exactly when, but I think it was about 5 years ago. I had a conversation with Steve Whittier, who said 3 things to me, which I've written here on the board, that he had picked up from Henry as it relates to Rickson's passing game. And it clicked for me when he told me, and I just started doing it, and I haven't passed any other way since. So it's been about 4 years, this is how I pass. And what happens here is the most tiring thing in jiu-jitsu, I think, is passing the guard. That's the most cardio intensive thing usually. Even when you're escaping bottom, there's times where you'll rest. But if you're passing on somebody that has a good open guard, it's pretty tiring. They hold you, they get their guard back, and after 3 or 4 minutes, you're exhausted. This passing style reverses that whole scenario. So the person on bottom winds up using a lot more energy than you do. So that's the first benefit from it. It's not attribute based in a way where it's not reliant on speed or explosiveness or taking a particular grip. In fact, the more you focus on your grips and try and get a particular grip, the worse you're going to pass this particular style. Okay, so that means it ages better, has better sustainability, which was one of the themes of our camps a few camps ago. We talked about sustainability. This is something that you'll be able to do till you're 80 or 90, be able to pass this way. And it's the only way I would ever be able to pass a young 23-year-old really good black belt with a really good open guard. I'm going to have to pass this way. So it's efficient. And then last but not least, this fits the matrix of what jiu-jitsu was designed for, and which was the reason why I started training jiu-jitsu, which wasn't tournaments or IBJJF or any of that stuff, but for fighting. This is the pass you want to use for fighting. So for all those reasons and more, I think you guys are going to like it, okay? When I show it to you, at first you're going to say it probably seems too simple, but you're going to have to trust me, and you're going to have to work on it. You're going to have to let go of how you pass now, and then I think you'll really enjoy it. My newer belts, my blues and even some of my purples, and definitely all my white belts at my gym pass this way. Some of my black belts are starting to pass this way. Some of my black belts don't pass this way. It's harder to learn this if you're stuck on doing what you already do. If you pass flat-footed, focus a lot on your grips, and try and go around or underneath, you're going to have to let all that go. So what I'm going to ask you to do is let go of what you think you know about passing or what you do know about passing right now, and try this just for a little bit and see if you enjoy it. Okay? So, can I borrow you? I've given this a lot of thought. I actually think I'm not 100% decided, but I may make this my topic for next year. But I really think what makes this passing game, what sets the table for everything else to work in the beginning is the pressure. And if you take the pressure off even for a moment, you'll lose it. And then you kind of have to go back and reset. And so what do I mean by pressure? So if he just lays there and lets me get here, I'm going to drop my chest on him. I'm going to make him hold me up. And the grilled chicken guard does not work well against this passing style. You're going to get smashed, okay? And in a fight, the person's going to get top. At best, you're going to have half guard, and they're going to be able to hit you and do a lot of pain to you. So he's going to want to reach out to me and stop me from getting close to him. And right now, I'm going to have you put your feet just above the knees, okay? So they're here. Now, if I take base as it's normally defined here with my feet flat and my weights here, so if John moves his feet, I'm still right here, right? John can move his hips left and right. He can do a technical stand-up. He can get back to his feet. If we're in a fight, he can punch me. He can up kick. He can do all that kind of stuff, right? Now I'm going to make a slight change in my base here. Okay, not a lot, but here. Now, do you feel like you can move your hips?
Not very well.
Not well? How about here?
Worst.
Worse. Can you do a technical stand-up? Try and do a technical stand-up. He's not even able to get to his feet. So what sets this whole passing game up in the beginning is that the only way your partner should feel like they can move or want to move is that way, okay? So as soon as his feet go above my knees, I'm going to lean into him a little bit. My toes come out a little bit, and I'm going to get my weight off my heels and more onto John. Not so much that I'm going to fall. So if he moves his feet, I can still have base. I'm going to occupy that space, but I can still have base. But he can only feel like he's going to go back. Okay, that's number one. That always has to be there. So I'm not reaching down and grabbing the pants. Look what happens when I go here. Now the pressure's off. Now he does that. Now we're into that counter for counter for counter. I don't want to mess with any of that, okay? So I'm here like this. I'm not bending down to grab his feet. That's the beginning. Now he's just going to move a leg, and as soon as he lifts a leg up, I'm just going to occupy that space. I'm going to step in to keep that same pressure. Here, that pressure's not there. Here, which way do you feel you can go? Only backwards. It's going to be much harder for him to come in and take a De La Hiba or whatever stuff this guy does is going to be difficult, okay? So that's the beginning. He puts his feet above your knees and just get comfortable like this. Talk to your partner, feel it back and forth. So the only way he feels like he can go is backwards. Then when he moves a leg, I want you to step forward and continue that pressure. So the only way he feels he can move is backwards. That's number one, okay? Number two, I'm going to come in. He's not going to move his leg, so I have to keep this pressure, lower my weight a little bit, and I'm going to put my hands just underneath his heels. Notice I'm not lifting, I'm just going here, okay? And now when he goes to move a foot, lift it up, yep, I can follow and control. But what I'm not doing is that, okay? So I have to squat a little bit just to get my feet under, my hands underneath his heels. And all I want to do is cup here, okay? Once I'm here, then I can move in for my pass, okay? As simple as that is, I think that pressure sets the table for everything we're going to do after, okay? So grab a body, practice it back and forth and get a feel for it. Go ahead.
It's got quite a few names, okay, so we'll just clarify what it's called to begin with. Some people call it Ashigarami, some people call it single leg X. Trav, what did you have? Slash guard, okay. I'm gonna call it Ashi. It's 2 syllables, it's simple, I like that, okay. So we're just, for today, we're gonna call it Ashi, all right. There's a lot of different ways. Where's my partner, Mike. First of all? Hey, this is Mike, everybody. Yeah. All right, and I've got notes, so I'm not over here texting. I just want to make sure that I give you guys the right information here. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to get into Ashi, including one that Coach Frankel just showed us in his section. But so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the entry. What I want to talk about is the pathway that, a pathway that's necessary to get there and the structure once you arrive, okay? So if I'm playing here in a sit-up guard position, okay, let's move here. What I need is some sort of connection, okay? Whether it's a hook, whether it's a grip, like some people play it from spider, right? There's a variety of different ways, but what I need is some sort of connection and that allows me to shoot my hips underneath. Okay, from here I need to elevate my hips and connect. Okay, now when I shoot underneath, kind of my GPS point is I want his ankle on my rib cage on one side and my bicep on the other. Okay, and I'm just going to overwrap this all the way. Right, I want my hook to be below his glute, the top of the hamstring, on the opposite leg that I'm throwing my heel over the top of. And what you'll notice is there's a little divot that's perfect for your heel here. Okay, you got your hip bone, and just inside of that, I'm gonna drive my heel in, and then I'm gonna reinforce that with my knee. Okay, so you turn a little bit this way. If your ashi is good, he can move all around and it's not gonna fall apart. Okay, so notice how I'm covering this up. One of the things that we're gonna get into is his defense in ashi is gonna be to get rid of his foot, okay? And so by covering this up and securing that, I make that a little bit harder for him to do, okay? So what I wanna do before we get into some entries, just kind of pressure test it a little bit. So Mike, if you'll have a seat for me on your butt. Thank you. So we're gonna get into this ashi position here. And the connection is so important. And if you do it right, what'll happen is Mike can start to scoot back, and he's gonna just drag me with him. Okay, so I'm biting down here. I'm using my hamstring to bite down, and I'm pinching here. And just go ahead and scoot around a little bit. Scoot back. All right, notice I'm not holding the ankle right now. This is all leg. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is just partner up, get in this position, and I want your partner to scoot around a little bit and make sure that your connection's good, okay? Let's go, 3, 2, 1. Oh, and I go 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3 because it's like a rocket. I like rockets, okay? A couple things here. If you're thinking about this from a sport standpoint, like IBJJF, you want to be careful about bringing this foot across. So if it's in the street, of course, it doesn't matter, right? But if you're in IBJJF and you just paid $100 and something to compete, you don't want to get instantly DQ'd by bringing your foot across like this. Okay, so my suggestion is to flare your toes a little bit. That way, no matter where the ref is standing, they can see that your game's legal, all right? One of the things that's really critical that some of you are missing still is to bring these hips up just behind the knee pit here, okay? And try to connect that knee over the heel. Okay, that's gonna really lock in your ashi. All right, so we'll play with that some with this entry that I'm gonna show you. All right, so we're gonna enter from sit-up guard. Again, you can enter from a lot of places. Matter of fact, go down to that reverse technical mount that Franco was just working on. Let's put the other one down. Bam, right? Look, ashi, okay? So I'm gonna show you from a sit-up guard position. What I wanna do is first of all, keep my elbows in. As we saw in Coach Matt's section yesterday, if my elbows are flared out and Mike changes level, gets this underhook here, he's gonna smash me. So I wanna make sure that I'm keeping those elbows in and I'm hand fighting this position. My hips are back further than my shoulder and my head is up, okay? From here, when I have an opportunity, I'm gonna scoot in and get to this instep guard. Okay, notice how I'm covering up this underhook here. All right, so if Mike's gonna try to swim and smash, it's gonna be difficult for him. He tries to guillotine me here, it's gonna be difficult for him. My head's high. Now what I wanna do is post on this knee here, and I'm gonna fall to the same side shoulder. So whatever hand I'm posting with, I'm gonna fall to that shoulder, and as I do, I'm gonna elevate with this instep. Okay, and I'm just gonna pull with my arm, letting my legs slide all the way through the bottom of my foot facing the ceiling, and then transition into my ashi. Okay, so again, we're playing here, we're nice and tight. Okay, now this may not work against Hickson style passing or Matt style passing. Fortunately for us, there's a very small percentage of people that are hip to that yet, right? And even more people that don't do jiu-jitsu in general. So this still works for the time being. So here and up. Okay, so one more time. Nice sit-up guard position, our head's up, hips are back, elbows are in. When I feel that I'm ready, I'm gonna create connection, instep to instep, scoot in and hug the leg. And I wanna make sure I'm really hugging the leg, right? The knee to my chest, good posture here. Post on this knee, and the reason I'm doing that is if I fall here and he wants to just drop his weight, right, he can do that, all right? But by posting on the knee here, it makes that complicated for him. It gives me the opportunity to elevate, slide the leg over the top, and transition into my ashi. Okay, one last time. And when I teach this, it's the left side, it's this that most people mess up on. Okay, so take your time with it. Elevate and then just slide it down your leg as you raise your hips up. Okay, everybody got it? Let's go, 3, 2, 1.
As was mentioned by Matt, and the topic of the camp is letting go. So I actually wanted to show you some Kimura stuff, but Jun stole my thunder there last night with such great work that I won't work that. We'll pass on that, but we'll do some different stuff. Hopefully that's going to be just as good. So letting go, I think, for me, is one of those central themes of Jiu-Jitsu. Matt already spoke about technique and tactics and timing. Okay, so when we first come onto the mat, we don't know anything. We learn our first technique. If it's taught well, we start to learn principles straight away as well. So base, posture, structure, connection, all the things that you're taught well in SBG gyms. Once we learn more than one or two techniques, we start to figure out that we can put them together in combinations, and we start developing tactics as to how to use those. And then as we develop over time, our temperaments, depending on what our nature is, and the amount of training that we do, ends up in us developing timing, okay, which Matt spoke about as well. So timing is everything. Timing is that thing that really separates the belts, I think. You see a white belt, you can see a white, blue, purple, brown, black do something, and you get them doing it with other levels. And as I say to my guys, the difference between the people often come up and say to me after a problem, what did I do wrong? I'm like, you did nothing wrong. You were just half a second behind. You're half a second behind the game. And the thing with that is that as you get better, you not only learn when to do the correct thing yourself, you also learn when to stop doing that correct thing, let go of that, and move to the next thing. And we see that all the time in Jiu-Jitsu. So we see that with grips. So again, if I'm sitting in the guard here, in a closed guard, and you get some grip on me, this is a really good grip to start with. As soon as I over-grip and start to put pressure on him here, his grip's no longer any good. Or he's got to move. If he stays here and allows me just to maintain this position, I'm going to get a really good position. Get a good angle and take advantage of that. So that was an example of letting go. Should have let that go, just relax. Same if we just looked at passing with Matt. So we're passing. Once we get to this position and we get in here and we're controlling the upper body and pinning, we work our body in one direction. If we feel like we can't get past the resistance in one direction, we're going to move and change and either switch and go to the other side, or we're going to change our focus of how we're trying to pass in that particular way. So I call it like persistence passing versus speed passing. Hodger Gracie was the king of the persistence pass. You just get one thing to be like, I'm getting through this way no matter what. It's little micro adjustments all the way through until he got what he wanted. One of the classic ones, again, with beginners is holding on to submissions for too long. So you get someone gets up for the first time, you get a guillotine on me. Oh, wow, I'm going to get a guillotine. And then the person passes to the side and they hold on for too long. Now they're in a von Flucho. Okay, so letting go is everything. It's understanding when you should do something and understanding when your opponent is doing something that you need to stop and move on. Okay? So we also see that, with submissions as well. So this is one of the things I was going to show, but I'm not going to, but I'll just give a demo in terms of the context of what I'm saying here. So even something as simple as the direction of movement. So if I'm here and he's locking his hands, not allowing me to finish the arm, we've got a whole host of ways we can open the arms here. But if I sit here and I just continue to pull in this direction, his resistance is going to be nice and strong here. He's got the grip that he wants. It's going to be difficult to break that. So something as simple as just letting go of this direction and changing it in the other direction, like we do with a snap down. So I pull this way, he gives some resistance here. Pull, and I push and pull. And the grip breaks. So what happens there? You hold your hand up here. If I'm sitting here, I'm just pulling in this direction. He's very strong. His fingers are here doing a good job. So all I do is go in the opposite direction to break the grip. And then quickly come back before we can re-grip. Okay? So that idea of directional change or positional change is fundamental to good jiu-jitsu. So with that in mind, we're going to look at the closed guard. So Matt just did a great session on the passing the guard, and one of the beautiful things about it, which I want to talk about here as well, is that idea of upper body and lower body control and center lines. Okay, so we have center lines in our body. Who knows what they are? Who can tell me what a center line is? Yeah, so what's that one? Yeah, nose to navel, center line, good. Are there any other ones?
Center of gravity.
Yeah, where's that? What's it cut through? Pretty much sure you're on it.
My belly button.
Your belly button, that's it. So your belly button, we're going to talk about the belly button line. You got one other one as well. What's the other one? Side to side, yes. So we just did that as well. So if you pop down on your side again into the iron pillow, like we just did before. So we saw this just a second ago. If he sits here, what was your name again? Sorry? Stevie, sorry, Stevie. If Stevie does the right thing and has his shoulder just forward of that centre line here, it's very hard for me to put pressure on him and flatten him out. If his shoulder's just back of that centre line, it's very easy to flatten him. Okay? So just having an understanding of where he should be in regard to his centre lines is going to play a big role in how successful he is with different techniques. So with that in mind, if I can grab you please, Steve. So we're going to look at closed guard. So opening a closed guard, historically, people stand up to open the closed guard. I should ask, does anybody consistently open the closed guard on their knees? Yep, yep. Okay, so a lot of people, a few hands went up there, which is great. Not a lot of people's hands went up. Okay, so, and there was a big argument like a year or two ago, Keaton Cornelius, famous guy, came out and said, you can't open the closed guard on the knees, and then Henry came out and said, yes, you can. And a bit of a back and forth, new school, old school. One of the things that Henry did in his video, though, he spoke about one particular point, and that's the point I'm going to focus on today. Because he said, sometimes you have trouble with this point. So my whole goal today is to hopefully, when I show you the way that I want to do this pass, is that we get past that bit of trouble. Okay? So again, if we're sitting in here in guard, and this is a lesson I give all my beginners when they come in, and I love it because I essentially say, if I put my knees together here and sit here and you rotate your hips, I'll fall off to the side. So that's base. So I've got to have good base. So I have to have my knees spread. Now he goes to twist his hips. Now he doesn't do anything. And again, we know from Matt's video I did years ago, if I sit up here with a deadlift or a squat back and he pulls his knees forward, I'm going to come forward. So I tuck my tailbone. Now he goes to do that. It doesn't happen. Okay, so I've taken that movement away. And so this is where it gets interesting with the belly button. So from here, a lot of times, a lot of people teaching this will have their hands basically on the hip bones here. Okay, and so if I get my hands on the hip bones, this is great. I've got great control of his hips, okay, but I have no control over the upper body. So if I sit here and you go to reach up to grab a collar, yeah, he sits up quite easily. So what we're going to look at first is just making sure that our hands are the other side of the belly button. Okay, so just grabbing the lower parts of the ribs here. That's your distinction point. One of my guys in the gym called them magician's lines, like the people getting cut in half, magician's assistant, yeah, so whatever. Right through the center. Take your hands about a hand's width further forward and make sure your elbows are still nice and connected over the top of the hips here. From here as he goes to sit up, it's very easy to block that. So now I've taken away most of the movements that he can do. He goes to try to twist my hips to the side, doesn't work. Tries to pull me forward with the knees, doesn't work. Tries to sit up, doesn't work. But posture's like everything else. Posture's not eternal, and I know that he's still going to be able to move and plan his body from side to side. And as he does, he's going to have options then to attack me. So I'm going to have to deal with that in a moment as well. Well, let's just everybody just have a look at that one piece to start with, just so you can feel that point that I want to talk about repeatedly with the belly button line. Get your posture, knees apart, tuck your tailbone, pop your hands on the hips with your hands still nicely connected on the thighs here, and see if you can stop the person from sitting up and grabbing you. And then I want you to take your hands about a hand's width further up, so you're just moving up from here to here, feeling the bottom of the ribs. When he goes to sit up again, now he's going to find trouble. Everybody cool with that to start with? Yeah, grab a partner, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
A lot of the themes here will be very familiar to you based on, as always, right, based on other topics and concepts you've been seeing this weekend. So what I'm not going to do is get into a ton of different options for being early because, John, can I grab you? If I get put on my back, somebody's passed into half guard, we've got all the different leg variations and we've got different levels of how much weight he's got on me and, range management from there. So if I had my option, if I had to be in half guard, okay, and he had his weight all the way down on me, right? It would be great if, just let me kind of get where I want to be, right? It would be great if I could already be on my side, completely bladed, so he can't flatten me out, much like we were talking about from the side bottom position. There was no way for him to get a cross face, and I had the path to the back completely opened up. So that would be great if we could start there, right? That would be a nice objective. And if he either didn't come down on top of me or he disengaged, it would be great if I could be all the way up here, such that not only do I have a great base, there's no way for him to really access my neck because I'm too deep under his. My back is straight and I've already broken his posture, okay? So in either of those cases, that's great, right? So what I want to work from today is more how to be in recovery if I'm a bit later. Not so much that he's completely locked me down with the tightest possible crossface and all of that, but how to basically reverse engineer the position. And my considerations are pretty simple, right? But sometimes we get so caught up in them climbing up your body and improving their positions, we forget to look for what is free. So I'm really thinking about, is he able to more control the line of my hips, or is he putting more pressure on the line of my head and shoulders? Although sometimes subjectively your feeling on bottom is that there's no space anywhere, if you relax, pay attention, no one can completely dominate both your hips and your shoulders at the same time. It was much like Ben was saying yesterday, right? There's always one of those corners of the box that is more free than the others. So what we're going to do for today, just starting out, I'm going to assume that my dilemma is John is all the way down tight, laying on top of me, right? He's heavy, but I'm going to have you play more Perez style. Okay, so we actually have a guy that's a perfect example of very heavy on the hips. So he likes to sprawl this leg out, actually. Yeah, he gets super heavy on the hips. He also has a beard, and what he does sometimes from this position is he likes to look you in the eye and smile creepily. Everybody from SBG East Coast knows who I'm talking about, right? So from here, go ahead and just put that in. So I'm going to have my arms in something related. We've had different names over the years. We've had X position, and Carl used to talk about X position a lot. We had stone squirrel. My main thing, though, is pretty simple. I want to keep my elbows in, dinosaur arms. I want to make sure that this arm can't come up to get either a pry bar or a full crossface. And then the job of this arm here is just to be along the clavicle line and then make some sort of connection. I don't care if I have a gi or I just clasp it with my hand. If I just try and do with my forearm, obviously his pressure can crush that. That's a tricep extension, comparatively weak. So I make a lever. Now, I'm not going to be specific about a figure 4 or anything right now. I'm just assume that I have one leg at least over. Okay. So what I see here a lot is John puts his head down. He's going to start climbing up my body. I'm trying to do the arm fight, and he's going to start to climb up, improve his position. But at this point, if he's really bent on smothering my hips, sometimes he'll have his leg away a little bit and his hand will be down there, right? So I can't pull guard. But if he is really intent here, I see people do this a lot, so just get heavy, right? They bridge, and they bridge, and nothing happens, okay? All I'm doing is wasting energy. Why? Because he's canceling out where I'm trying to move, right? That is a hip elevation. So out of our primary components in the open guard seminar is very much about keeping somebody at distance and letting go of feeling the need to have the grips and have the kind of traditional 3 points of contact. Well, by the same token, modern half guard game a lot is how can I be in here somewhere? Be in here somewhere where I'm actually kind of, it works for sport to set up a lot of your game, but I'm sort of violating the principles of fighting jiu-jitsu again, which is I'm putting myself kind of in the middle, right? In the middle zone. I want to be all the way away, if possible, is my first option, or all the way in. That's my first option. Anything that I do to layer on top of that is specific to me individually, right? Things that I'll do that I know I have some roots in a sport game, but I don't want that to be the foundation of my game, because again, if all of a sudden we said, okay, so I'm in here, right, playing my game, you know, I move out, I get this in, I've got my grips, and I'm like, okay, well now if I connect my elbow to my knee, there's no way for him to slide into my hip with his knee and all that stuff, and then I say, okay, John, now punch, right? Now I'm screwed, all right? So my whole thing is, how can we use the fundamental movements which we see in defense and which we see in guard retention, which is what goes back to the basics of a shrimp. You move your hips, you move your shoulders. You move your hips, you move your shoulders. So right here, the bridge, which is another fundamental, is not available. It's not strong. But I do have the ability to move my hips, even if he's tight, and all I need to do is have my patella touch the notch of his hip, okay? I'll do this on the other side so everybody over there can see. But I move out just enough for my patella to slide into the very outside notch of his hip, just enough to have a little bit of a catch there, and then from here, I move my shoulders, okay? I'm going to show another little detail here because if I just have you go right now and try this, I know the next question is going to come up. I can't get my bottom leg out because he's got his hand on my leg, right? So go into one more detail. So from here, he's tight on my hips. He's sprawling on my hips, okay? He might even, again, have this leg sprawled out even more to make it heavy, and he's got his hand down there, right? So you guys try and bridge to see if you can get an underhook. What you will find is that it's probably not going to help you unless you're just way bigger than your partner and you can launch him off because you have 100 pounds on him. But from here, although it feels like with his elbow it's a little restricted, you will find your hip motion is quite strong. So I put my knee into the notch of the hip, and now I'm going to backstroke and extend away. Now here's the problem I was just referring to before I have you go and try this. John's making a frame. His elbow's right up against his body. Okay, he might even have his knee kind of coming up, right? So he's got a nice frame there. So if I pull guard right here, and I'm trying to bring my knee straight up towards the ceiling, that's fine if it's unobstructed. The problem is right now, it's totally obstructed. So the thing is, I have more extension than this. This top hand is just a check. This isn't really to do anything to him. But I haven't extended far enough. So you guys actually will find that if you do this, first move your hips, then your shoulders can actually go here. And now watch. There's no way for him to stop that. Okay? So I don't get greedy and go, oh, I want to pull my knee out. Okay? I'm going to move myself all the way and now try and stop it. Can't do it, right? So now I come back to where I have the option of either having, just square up to me, I just got my guard back, right? I can either have both feet on the outside, which means he can't go left or right without me hitching a ride, or I could have both hooks in, same thing, okay? The only issue with half guard, just one more comment, is that even if it's my favorite guard to play from, because I have my favorite routes, on paper, right, I am allowing him to come over one side, right? So I have given him the ability to go this way, right? So that's why there's sort of that basic concept of now he can't go left or right, now he can't go left or right. Okay, so this allows me to get back there. So let me show that from the back so you guys can see the insertion. So again, your partner's going to sprawl on your hips. I want you to try and bridge just to see if your partner's nice and tight, and you should feel it. See if you can get an underhook. Probably going to be very hard, but I can do that. All I do is move myself away from this elbow point with this frame, and my arms aren't doing anything. They're just a placeholder, little bookmark, okay? Once my knee comes in, I do not want to bring it all the way across his waist because that's where he can easily kill it, windshield wiper around. All I want to do is get it right here. I do not need to stop into this type of a guard either, where I lock my toes together. That's optional, but you don't need to do it, okay? I'm not going to hang out here long enough, right? Now, if John were to try and grab this arm or something, I'm backstroking with it, and my back is strong here, okay? So I'm going to go all the way away. Have your partner have their hand on top. Try and prevent this, okay? So from here, when I get my angle, I pull it straight up. Now, once it's all the way up here, he can't stop it. The only issue you might have sometimes is if, like that time is a little bit hard because John actually sat all the way back, okay? So if he sits all the way back, I come up with him, okay? Sorry. So I still want you to kind of lean into me, okay? So I move all the way here. Now when my foot comes all the way out here, my toes go to the mat, switch, okay? Won't be able to stop it. Good? All right, let's try it. Make sure on top you give the correct pressure though. I want you to sprawl on their hip. So if I'm on top, I don't want to see you guys go with your partners and do this, okay? I'm here, almost like I'm doing a sprawl, right? And although some of you may not have people in your gym or something that play this game, it is a tough game. And if you encounter people, I want to make sure you don't just go, okay, every time we get in this position, we bridge and get an underhook, because you're not going to be able to. They're going to get the body tight, okay? Let's try it.
So I am usually the person they ask to open camp, and that's important because I hope, in my head at least, it sets the stage for an awesome 2 days. So I will do everything I can out here to help you sweat, smile, and learn something, and have a really good time. we're going to be doing sort of a transition stand-up wrestling type lesson. But there's a tremendous amount you can take out of it, even if you just do jiu-jitsu. But I believe that everyone needs to do some work against a striking opponent, standing and on the ground. And an opponent trying to grab you and grab your head all the way up to and including someone that's wrestled before. Because I think what we do as an organization is and should be more MMA, but we just come at it from a different direction than maybe a different school would come at it. Does that make sense? Because it's fighting, but MMA allows us to test the fighting in a real way. So I'm going to give you some what I call shells that we can do my material from, that if you're just like, we need self-defense and how to handle yourself standing up like that, we can do that, or people can move around and touch each other up a little bit. Yeah? Excellent. So I work off notes. So make sure. So I want to give you the context of what we're doing first, and then we're going to warm up so you have this idea in your head. My lesson is going to be on how to manage ranges. Okay? Now, if I ask you what that means, can someone just give me like some idea? Managing a range. What comes into your head? Come on, you got to work with me. John? Distance, for sure. Distance probably being the priority. But what else can we maybe think of? Levels, right? So you have a good distance, but there are some guys that can change levels and get to you from where you think you're controlling distance. What else?
Clinch.
Sir?
Clinch.
Clinch would be the idea of going from one range to another. And if I am a boxer and John wants to clinch and take me down, then my range management requires me not letting him get there or doing my best. And his range management is about getting there. Does that make sense? So transitions for sure. And there's one more Matt was talking about this morning with boxing. What word did he use over and over and over? Angle. How many angles are there? Quiz. If you know, raise your hand and tell me. All right, we'll figure that out before we're done. It's 360, by the way. The answer is 360. The fact that no one in Canada knew that, it doesn't surprise me. Matt, angles. You raise your hand. Did you raise your hand? Stop staring at me. You're making me very nervous. So, the whole lesson will deal a little bit with controlling distance, controlling level, controlling angle. I'll give you a jiu-jitsu example real quickly, and then we're going to start. We're going to get up and start. Rory, come here, please. Just get on your back. So I want to hit Rory, and so he is going to control the distance with his connection to my hip. Maybe he's trying to hit me, so got the distance. If I want to hit him, I'm going to have to do something with the thing that's controlling the distance, and I can't go right here because I'm back in. So I'm going to do something with the thing controlling the distance and then create some kind of angle, and then I have to change level to get my chest closer to his chest. Yes? So hop up, please. So we're going to start with the idea of controlling distance, and then we will work through those things. So what I'd like you to do is everyone hop up. We got to move around a little bit. We're going to spread out, get as much space, go on the floor if you need to. Wait, not yet, not yet! I want you to just move around a little bit. We can call it shadow boxing if you want to, but I want you to visualize an opponent in your head right now. Just visualize. Close your eyes for a sec. Who's it look like? All right, open your eyes. I want you to visualize, Rory's my visualization right now, just moving around and thinking about the distance. How can I control the distance? How can I control the distance? Just thinking about how can I control an angle? How can I control an angle? And I want you to just move around with your person, and then we'll get a partner and we'll start to put it in context. But right now we got to be a little imaginatory. Is that a word? Imaginative. Be imaginative. Steve Whittier made up a word the other day. I can make up a word. And just think about the person. Complexification is not a word. Yes, so this is in your head. Think about the distance. Is John too close to me now? No, I'm pretty happy. If he takes a little step forward, I'm less happy, right? And now if John is here, don't move, and maybe I was here, I'm happy, he's not happy. So just put that in your head and play with it. 3, 2, 1. By the way, I don't do the clapping thing. I'm just going to say 3, 2, 1, and you go.
So the one thing that we've been doing a lot at our school is just trying to establish systems, right? And systems are just like, you know, for my definition, and I'm sure there's different definitions of systems, but we try to just add in whatever fundamental positions there are that are associated with a certain system, right? And that's what we try to define the system as. Now, in terms of all the auxiliary stuff or possibilities, that is not the main part of the system. The system, because that's what, you know, each individual is going to bring that's something different, right? So what we try to do is we try to make sure that everything within the system is actually quite fundamental. And then, you know, however you get into it, for example, if it's a mount, however you get into the mount, that's the input. The output is what comes out of it. So it could be a submission, it could be a sweep, it could be a transition to another position, another system. That's sort of how I tend to look at it. Now, I usually have a whiteboard with all these boxes and stuff at my gym. We don't have one here. But today, I'm just going to try to illustrate a little bit by going through the Kimura. All right? Now, the Kimura is one of the first fundamental positions for submissions that I like to teach my students, just because not only is it an awesome submission, but using it, you can transition from position to position and have that control, maintain that control between them. Right? So first of all, we'll take a look at, you know, how to hold on and control the Kimura. And then we'll take a look at, you know, as an example, a couple submissions that you could use just for the output part. And then we'll take a look at how to get into it and how to control them throughout. All right? Steve, I'm going to use you. So typically, Kimura, rules I don't know. In this case, right arm to left. We're going to figure 4 behind the elbow, right? This is your typical Kimura. Now we're just going to start off on what I call the same side. So we're just on the same side as the Kimura. I just want to be able to control him so that he's not going to be able to escape. Now there's a few different ways that I can hold the Kimura. Some people like to put it right up against their chest. Some people like to stretch out their arms to be able to control it, right? Now, there's different also ways to be able to escape from it. So as long as it addresses those fundamental ways to be able to escape from Kimura, it should be pretty fundamentally sound in terms of being able to control it, right? And one of the hardest ways, from my experience, to be able to maintain control of this, right, is if Steve does, you know, bridging and pull that elbow down. Yeah, so if I hold it here, and let's try different ones, right? I'm gonna put it right up to my chest. I'm gonna hold it tight, go ahead. Sometimes pretty different, right? So some people are like, well, let's extend the arms out a little bit. Let's do this, you know, make sure that we're not using our thumbs, because if he tucks his thumb in, go like this, straighten it, don't let me bend your wrist, right? This is pretty good. If you go like this, much easier. So if he tucks his thumbs, maybe it's a little bit better. So like this, I extend out my arms, and then go hard. Okay, so a little bit better. And then some people are like, well, instead of using the wrist, maybe I'll turn my wrist sideways, right? And this may be a little bit better. Maybe, you know, motorcycle grip it a little bit more, but extend it out. Now try to go hard. It's still pretty tough, right? So, when experimenting with them, we came up with something a little bit different. So instead of always relying on this, because watch what he does with his elbows and where it goes, right? So he starts to go, it goes between my arms and right down to the mat, right? So what I want to do is I want to use connection to try and stop that elbow from coming between my arms. So I'm going to go, in terms of the grip-wise, think of going middle finger to bend of wrist, middle finger to the bend of my wrist, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck his elbow and connect it to my bicep right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hug it tight, add in a little bit more connection, and then from here, right, try and get your elbow to the mat. That's it. All right. Now, can you get your elbow past my bicep? Okay, go. All right. Okay. So it's getting better. Getting a little bit better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring his hand, because eventually I want to bring it behind his back for the kimura. Correct? Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that force. I'm going to apply that pressure. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to start to apply that pressure, and of course he might defend with the other arm if he wants to, but I'm not going to submit him right just yet. And then now try and get it. No? Try your hardest. Right? Now you saw that he had to turn his body. So the other issue is that if I allow him, his head's pointed at 12 o'clock, if I allow him to position me at like 3 o'clock or below, or I should say above this, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So if I'm here, do this, and he starts to walk his body, he's going to be able to get that out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to just make sure that I stay above 2. That's it. Right? So, just recap, right? Middle finger, wrist, middle finger to your wrist, no thumbs in. I'm going to connect my bicep to the back of his elbow, hold it tight. I'm going to now, the pressure isn't just allowing him to put his hand on his chest, it's always going towards his back. If he stops it, awesome. If it keeps on going, even better, right? So I'm here. Now, I'm going to stay 2 o'clock and above. I want to hold him down here. Now, if you can drop that elbow onto the shoulder, even better, right? Yeah, now try and get out. Not even moving. All right? So that's what I want you guys to start with. So back and forth, just feel out that. Your lower body could be here, could be here, could be here, I could be here. It shouldn't matter. All right? Break on 3. 1, 2.
The theme of this camp is letting go, which is awesome for me because I'm like, finally a theme that works for yoga. The problem is that I only get 30 minutes, and jiu-jitsu fucks up your body way quicker than yoga can fix it. So normally in years past, what I've done is I've tried really hard to stretch everybody out and target all of the different points of your body that need it. But realistically, I can't really fix all the damage that you just did to yourself in 30 minutes. So I'm going to focus on the letting go part for today, and then tomorrow we're going to work on posture and building frames. So one's going to be about letting everything go, and then the other one's going to be a little bit more up Adam's alley of like, we got to figure out, like Matt says, there's always at least 2 pressures, and that's true of yoga as well. And so if you want to get a muscle to release, to lengthen, to let go, you have to first figure out what doesn't move, like what stays stable so that you can release the muscle and lengthen and kind of get that pressure. And so then automatically the pressures might not be going in towards each other, they're pulling apart, okay? So we're gonna focus a lot on your breathing. And I'm gonna tell you to breathe into different parts of your body. And then as you exhale, the focus is gonna be on slowing the exhale down without any force. So I don't want you to hold your breath. I just want you to kind of let it seep out a little bit longer. Make sense? So our first exercise is like this. And actually we're gonna use the wall. So come up herd, you can stand, follow me to the wall. I'll show you what you're gonna do, and then you're gonna find your own spot. And am I speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear me? Yes. And I very much like it when people respond. And I will say, Ben, I empathize with you on the whole cracking jokes. Icelandic people are not really known for their humor. We're more known for our volatile violence. So, if you were my partner today, you may have realized that. First thing you're gonna do is we're gonna measure a foot's distance from the wall. I like to just take 1 foot, and then I step the other foot in front of it, and I have 1 foot's distance. Bring both feet together. As we do our forward bends, because of jiu-jitsu, our external hip rotators and the low back gets super, super tight. So as you come down, the reason I have your feet together is because it gives you a good reference point for your knees. Don't let your knees come apart, okay? So what we're gonna do here is the knees are gonna stay bent, and then we're gonna take our tailbone, and I like to think of it as a paintbrush, and I'm gonna paint to line up the wall. And then we kind of look like ducks. Knees are still together. And now I'm gonna sort of let the body go, trying to keep the front side of my body as long as I can. And then I'm gonna drop my head and interlace my hands. And this is where the breathing comes in. We have the knees bent, and part of this is to help take the edge off the hamstrings. So if you have tight hamstrings, which like 95% of you guys are gonna have, if it's too much, you can always step a little bit further and increase the bend so long as you keep the knees above your ankles. Make sense? Now we're gonna do the breathing. So here you'll feel that you might even have tension in the back of your neck. You have this urge to lift the head. I want you to resist that urge and just completely let your head go. Then as you breathe, I want you to breathe into the back and sides of your rib cage. Breathe all the way into the low back. And as you exhale, use gravity to help you just sink down. The first step of this is about getting the back to let go, releasing the spine, and then, and only if you kind of feel comfortable there, are you gonna start working on straightening the knees, which is gonna bring the stretch more into the hamstrings. The same principle is breathe into where you feel tight, and as you exhale, exhale slow, and focus on letting go exactly where you just put that pressure from the inside out. Got it? Yep. Yes. Okay, find a spot on the wall. Take your tailbone and paint it up the wall. Notice how that lengthens the front of your body. Keep the front of your body long as you come down. I like to call this the peanut butter jelly sandwich. So you have like 1 slice of bread on your thighs and the other slice is your torso. And you have to keep your sandwich stuck together. Make it sticky. Now as you came down, did your knees start to flare? Try to keep your knees together, and if you have to, you can step a little bit further away from the wall. That should take a little bit of the edge off of the hamstrings, off of the legs, off of the knees, and help you bring it into the back. Does everybody feel it in their back now? Sort of? Okay, so stop trying to hold your head up and relax your head. Make it heavy. Use gravity. You're not even doing the exercise. Why are you complaining? All right, so now that you have the head heavy and your arms are heavy, we're gonna start breathing. I want you to take a nice deep breath in. I want you to breathe into the back and side of the rib cage. And as you exhale, try to let gravity do your job and just relax. Let go, be heavy. And again, nice deep breath in, breathe into where you feel the tightness. And then as you exhale, relax, let go, let gravity do the work for you. I want you to take, let's say, if you can, 5 to 7 more breaths, and I want you to really focus on letting go of any tension so that the upper body turns into like a limp noodle that's hanging over the structure of your feet. if you feel up to it and you feel like your back is relaxed, you have a little more flexibility, keeping the knees together, you can start to straighten the legs, but do not tuck the tail as you do so. So the tail kind of has to keep moving up the wall as the knees move closer. As you straighten the legs, resist the urge to tuck the tail and round the back. Keep the spine long and relax into it. How many of you have lost sensation in their toes? Okay, you can come up now. Slow and steady. But so stretching is definitely something that you want to do with patience. It's you have to wait until the muscles relax and let go before you can back out of it. If you back out of it before that point, what you're doing is you're putting the muscle in kind of a stress position where it's gripping and holding on, and then you're leaving it there. So you have to actually put a little mind over matter and stick with it a little bit longer until you really feel everything let go. Okay?